Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, the election of 2024 is done. I believe almost all the votes are entirely counted. I believe the process should be much more efficient than we have now. Thank God the election was over. It was quite nerve-wracking, believe it or not. As you can see, there's all these billboards everywhere. Some of them are still advertising regarding who to vote for, this and that. Aren't you glad all the signs are gone? Let's get it over with. I can tell you that certainly this was a shakeup of what we saw and how this has really affected the results in our modern political system. It was certainly an earthquake. It shocked a lot of people. In addition to the fact the reactions were priceless. A lot of people crying, moaning, the media, especially the legacy establishment, is going crazy. You see all these young women who certainly aren't marriage material, promiscuous, just these establishment tools, I guess you can say, are just crying and starting the 4B movement. I mean, oh my gosh. It's just the way you're reacting is proving our point. You are promiscuous. You are low value. You basically really are doing the job that many of the so-called traditional mindsets really want. Here's the thing. The people have had enough. We've been fed with lies. We are tired of being sold out to the corporate elite establishment. We understand the last several years, or perhaps even decades, was such a failure. Basically, when you think about it, how did we get to this point? Well, you can see with COVID. COVID created the lockdowns, the fear, the paranoia. It jacked up the unemployment rates. It affected the 2020 election results. This climate created the so-called Summer of Love riots all across the world. This, of course, led to massive tension, division, in addition to the events of what happened 4 years ago with January 6th. As soon as that rolled around, we had a change of batter, massive, record-breaking border crossing. So much dollars that were printed, along with the supply chain issues, created a massive cost of living crisis. This, along with the mortgage forbearance, the eviction moratoriums. Basically, people really saw over time, well, this really wasn't worth it. This really wasn't what I was told. And people are so betrayed by the establishment, the corporate elites, the legacy media. And they showed their voice in the ballot boxes about a week ago. And as you see, as a result, Trump not only won the Electoral College, but he won the popular vote. What's pretty surprising is that Trump made significant gains in various different types of demographics. Jews, blacks, Latinos. In some areas, it seems like he got the majority of the Hispanic male vote. Pretty much looks like it's more of a battle of the sexes kind of a result. Instead of several years ago, it used to be more about whites versus non-whites. This is the thing, because we had so many people on the alt-right, people who are so pro-white concerned, oh, the demographics are going to change. And sure, they do matter, but it didn't seem to be much of a concern that individuals such as the Red Elephants, Vincent James, or Peter Brimley, who I interviewed several years ago, were talking about. Ann Coulter, the list goes on. Colorado and Washington was not so much of a shift for Donald Trump, but there were a lot of states that had significant surprises. And you can see that in the West, during the United States, with these Democrats, they really are, in a way, socially secular. When you look at Illinois, New Jersey, New York, huge amounts of swings. If this could keep up, these states could be swing states in a matter of time, not just Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia, although those states swinged a lot. Texas and Florida had double-digit leads, unlike the last election cycle. And I have to tell you, this illegal alien crisis, it really backfired. California had a significant shift, despite the fact that it was Kamala Harris's home state. We saw many counties, last time I checked, including two of the areas that I was born and raised in, such as the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties, as well as Orange County. They had significant shifts. Basically, we look at, more importantly, here in Nevada. You can see that You might as well party like it's 1988. Donald Trump was relatively close to flipping Clark County. He was within 1 or 2 points, something that we haven't seen in about 35 years or so. Unbelievable. He got Washoe County. Yeah, he was pretty damn close. This really proves that the COVID measures that were taken several years ago really backfired. So now a lot of you are thinking, ladies and gentlemen, what is really next? What do we got going forward with really the Democratic Party? Now, if Donald Trump really screws up, because we're seeing signs of the real estate market really coming down in price in many markets across the country, if this problem accelerates and this country goes down to a GDP contraction, unemployment goes up, things get more favorable for the Democrats in the next election cycle. However, if Donald Trump has a very high approval rating, the economy looks better, especially for the average person, in the next 4 years, I don't know what to say about the Democratic Party, because really this whole mantra of believe in science, identity politics, race, gender, just basically trying to be the farthest of being what America traditionally used to be. If anybody wants to be traditional, is so taboo, using that as a way to distract and divide from the major kitchen table issues, instead of fighting the corporate elites, Wall Street, going after campaign finance reform. If this is going to be your mantra, which I think likely they're really not going to change, because considering the fact that no congressional seats in the state of Nevada actually flipped, which I'll get to that later, Democrats didn't really suffer hard in the House of Representatives. I really don't see them changing in the next couple of years. Maybe they'll have to get another slap to really experience what in the world is going on. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking forward to more of a, I guess you can say, J.D. Vance. Perhaps if they want somebody who can compete with him, could be Josh Shapiro, although that's very hard to say. They could bring in Gavin Newsom for 2028, but that will certainly hurt his chances. I think that Josh Shapiro certainly should bring some more moderation into the system. Now let's talk about some of the elections that we see here in Nevada. Sam Brown was leading 11 o'clock at night during Election Day. But as you know, the mail-in vote supposedly came in, and now he is under a deficit. Will there be people fighting this? Certainly. Will this result in an overturn if this goes through court? I can't really see that. Maybe this will take years, who knows? But I can tell you that the bottom line when it comes to Sam Brown, I think the real reason why he lost was because, first of all, he wasn't polling as well as Donald Trump. I can tell you that. Number two, his campaigning strategy wasn't all that great. So even if you do believe that there's fraud, the fact of the matter is that it's not entirely due to the manipulation. A large part of it has to do with how you campaign. And I can tell you some of the races later on that I guess you can argue we're able to overcome the fraud. Again, I don't exactly know what happened. I haven't done an investigation. I can't just suspect or assume it's fraud because it looks fishy. It certainly was a fishy election, just like the last several election cycles. So as you know, no congressional seats flipped. John Lee did worse than I thought. When it comes to, what's his name? The guy who ran against Susie Lee, Drew Johnson, he was fairly close. I think he could have done a much better job, but again, they really redistrict those boundaries, which makes it very difficult. Here's the one that I am pretty shocked and quite excited. The county commission. April Becker actually won her seat by a pretty good margin. It doesn't seem that Axelrod, what was her name exactly? She didn't really do a good campaign. I can tell by her signs and her outreach, a lot of different things. April Becker really did a fine job. I don't know April Becker too well. I've thought about interviewing her, but one thing I do like, along with all the flips that we just saw, is that the more even government that we see in terms of both parties, the less likely things will get done. Because after all, that's what we want. We don't want a lot of things get passed. We just want a lot of friction in government, so we can basically assume that they can just leave us the heck alone, pretty much. Although you can't say that there's zero difference between the two parties, because when we see how things are managed in the local and state level, certainly there's no major difference between McConnell and somebody like Chuck Schumer in many ways. But when it comes to state and local level, it really can make a significant difference. The mayor of Las Vegas, I had a lot of respect for both of the candidates, Shelley Berkeley as well as Victoria Seaman. There was a lot of things I liked about Victoria Seaman. However, I don't think Victoria Seaman ran that good of a campaign, her outreach and everything. I think Victoria Seaman probably has another shot maybe 4 years later. God forbid, I don't want to sound harsh, but the problem with Shelley Berkeley is her age, and she just somehow stepped into politics 12 years later. As far as Henderson is concerned, and by the way, I look forward to working with Shelley Berkeley with a lot of other issues. Henderson is concerned, Dan Shaw, last time I checked, was defeated by, I can't remember her name. She is from Southern California, from what I know. I met her a few weeks ago. I might interview her. We had a great conversation about many other topics. Dan Shaw just had a lot of scandals with the payday loans and so forth. So good riddance that he is gone. He didn't really seem to like me when I was around him. And let's not forget also the infamous, what's his name? The one councilman who I believe Kerry Cox tried to run against. As far as the Clark County Unified School District, those results really surprised me. I've known Lydia Dominguez and Lorena Cardenas for many, many years. They were trying to fight the school districts. They won in pretty good sizable margins. They did a lot of outreach. The opposing candidates didn't seem to be as good. I put a lot of signs supporting them. And I'm going to show you some of the signs I put all over Clark County as the days goes on, as I upload my future video. And this is going to really shake things up in the schooling system here in the Las Vegas Valley. The ranking is not really good, although ranking is not everything. What matters is, do the children adopt those concepts in the real world? But this is going to be really instrumental as they continue to shake things as the days goes on. As far as the state legislature, there was one state Senate race. I think it was Lori, I can't remember her name. She flipped the seat from Dallas Harris. Dallas Harris, if you don't remember, years ago, I tried to interview that assembly person about what was going on with COVID. I just wouldn't get my questions answered. It was just so harsh. So good riddance. Hopefully we're going to see things shake up. Carrie Buck kept her seat. As far as the legislature, in terms of the assembly, last time I checked, a few seats were flipped. Hopefully this will shake things up. But then again, a lot of these candidates who run as a Republican, they just really don't know how to run campaigns. They don't know how to do attack ads. They don't know how to address the voters. You can blame fraud all you want. However, it's the campaign strategy that truly matters. As far as my final take is concerned, look, I have a lot of issues with the GOP. I have a lot of issues with Donald Trump. Now, for the record, Donald Trump, however, did affect immigration levels, and he did have an effect when it came to trade. Are there a lot of concerns I have with Donald Trump? I'll keep repeating this. Yes, okay? I am kind of concerned about foreign policy, some of his economic plans and so forth. However, look, folks, our country's been in a downward slope in many ways since, I guess you can say, the Kennedy assassination. My great-grandmother came to this country, visited in the early 1960s. It was a phenomenal country. So much has gone downhill. Look what has happened. You see all these young, crazy, angry women reacting to the election. Okay, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but your reaction and the reason why you voted in the election, just think about it. It's absurd. And we're just going to see a lot of unmarried women who are basically going to have to work their tail off until they're 80 years old, perhaps. It's really saddening because of the poor lifestyle choices that they made, their poor dating habits. This is really not just going to be a political earthquake. This is going to hopefully lead to a cultural shakeup in the coming years ahead. As far as Las Vegas is concerned, hopefully this is a middle finger to the way things are run in Las Vegas. It's not just local government. Now, we're going to be talking about in the future how we're going to have to break up Clark County. However, it's also the sectors of our economy, namely behind me, the casino elites, two companies owning so much, the nickel and diming, the service has gone downhill. Yes, there's certainly a lot of great things. I've promoted in my video, but a lot of things have turned into crap compared to 2-3 decades ago. And hopefully things will shake up. We will decorporatize our landscape, but it's going to take a lot of effort. Hopefully we can get some better influences in the gaming control board, as well as other sectors, the home builders, developers, which leads me to my other point. We're going to be making a lot of videos about the fact that I am leading Strong Towns Las Vegas, an urban planning organization. I'll have the links. I can show you where to go. We can make significant changes in urban planning, transportation, land use, architecture, so forth. All right. Well, let me know what you guys think.